Welcome back, everyone. This is Jeff. Hey, this is day 11th, or the 11th day we've been working on this F355 major service. So all the parts on this have been supplied by Ferrparts, so give them a call if you need any parts, Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, and they'll hook you up. But anyway, like I said, this is the 11th day we've spent on this project. It's been more than a couple months, actually, calendar days, but you know, with parts, machine shop, and everything, it's taken a while. So we finally got the heads back. Our Mark is bringing the heads back today. They were completed on Tuesday at the machine shop. So he'll be bringing those over later in a few hours. I've been working on cleaning up the surfaces here for the mating surface for the head to sit on the engine block. Want to use some Scotch-Brite on there by hand only. You don't want to use any mechanical means. You don't want to use any high-speed grinders or anything on that, or Scotch-Brite pads. Can't talk on that. So you want to do everything by hand because you don't want to create valleys in that on those surfaces, because that'll create a leak. So we've got it cleaned up the best we can. These areas here are like corrosion. We're not going to be able to get those out unless you get it decked. There's no reason to get this thing decked because we didn't have any head issue or head gasket issues, I should say. We just had the valve failure. So we cleaned both sides up. Make sure you clean all these surfaces real well. Make sure the cylinders are clean inside. You don't want any debris in there. I cleaned it down with a little bit of alcohol. I didn't wipe the cylinders down because I kind of want to keep the oil residue in there, but I did wipe them down with a rag, just a dry rag, and blew them out with air. So those surfaces are clean on both sides, as you can see. They're ready to accept the cylinder head, but we're just, like I said, waiting for Mark to bring them over, and we'll get started on this later today. So please stay tuned. All right, so just to kind of go over this paperwork here from the Ferrari manual for installing the heads. It's got like a sequence they want you to follow for torquing and that. It's got special tools. We actually purchased some other tools, but you can use the Ferrari tools if you like. It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as they work, you have the clearances and the torques, you can reach the torques. It doesn't matter which tool you use, but it does have the Ferrari tool numbers in here. Anyway, it says fit the cylinder heads and gaskets, then tighten the nuts as follows right here, if you're in English. And then it goes on to, you're supposed to use a Moly Coat grease on the studs before you put the head on, and then tighten the nuts to 60 Newton meters with this adapter, which is AV2595. And then this 90 degrees. So this is the diagram here they want you to use for your torquing sequence. So you're going to start at the middle and then back and forth and then work your way out to the edges when you're torquing these up. All right. So it has like a little procedure here. I want you to torque it to 60 Newton meters and then ensure 90 degrees torque wrench. So when you're torquing the wrench, it's got like an L here, as you can see. You're going to use your wrench at 90 degrees because when you're torquing things, if you use it at 90 degrees, you don't have to use any formulas for your torque wrench. So if you put in 90 Newton meters here, or 60 Newton meters, I'm sorry, and you use it at 90 degrees, you don't have to use a formula for the torque wrench. Now, if you use it in any other degree than 90 degrees, you're going to have to come up with a formula, because if the length of these arms and that make a difference if you're not at 90 degrees, because the torque settings change. Because if you're using the wrench straight on, your torque is going to be higher than what your wrench is saying. So to eliminate any kind of confusing formulas, they suggest using it at 90 degrees. Okay, so remember that if you're using this tool or whatever. Now, if you have a tool to say, and it's a straight rod here and it didn't have these bends in it, it wouldn't matter what degree you're at. Doesn't matter. But if you're using with different angles and that lengths, 90 degrees is what you want to use on that. So anyway, we'll go through that when we get to that point. But just to give you a heads up, that's how they do that. And then they've got some different tools here that they use or suggest. But anyway, we'll wait for Mark to bring the heads, and we'll go through this step by step. All right, Mark just arrived.
Hello.
We've got the heads are all wrapped up right here. He'll unwrap those. And then while he's doing that, I'm going to go over here and show you guys some of the parts that were removed from the heads. So we've got some seals here, valve guide seals, some other intake seals. These are the valves. And then here's the valve that failed. As you can see here, it's got a nice big chunk out of it, as you can see. So that's definitely bad. And then I don't know, like I said, besides being at the machine shop, he must have gapped, measured all those, and figured out those all needed to be replaced. So these are all what is this, exhaust side?
No, they put, I think, all new exhaust.
All new exhaust.
Yeah.
All right, and here's the guides, all the guides here, the old ones, obviously. But I haven't gone through them to see which one's bad. But like I said, there's wear and stuff in them, obviously, because he changed them all. So other than that, like I said, he's over here unwrapping those. Here's our new gaskets. These are from Ferrparts. All the new valves are from Ferrparts too. So, like I said, these are all replacements are from Ferrparts, and the guides here. So we're going to go over here and check these out here. As soon as he gets these unwrapped, we'll look at these. So we've got all the heads unwrapped. Look really nice. They're all nice and clean. Remember, these are all line board from the factory. So these have to go in specific spots and directions. There's little arrows and numbers on these. So if you're ever taking this stuff apart, remember where they go and the direction and everything. Same thing on both heads. Like I said, they are specific locations for these and everything. Other than that, let's see here. We've got new bolts for the heads here. I recommend changing the nuts here. Washers we're going to reuse. These are really torqued high, and they kind of like get marred up. So you want to use new nuts on the heads here anytime you change them. Definitely on that. You want to flip one of these over and kind of look at the valve on the one side. Not too crazy because those caps will fall out. But yeah, you can see here. It's all nice machine, all new valves and everything. We're not only going to do the one head. We're not going to do both. But anyway, look nice. So it should run great, hopefully.
Scalded cat.
So anyway, over here, just make sure your bushings are installed. There should be a bushing right here. This one here is fine. Same thing on the other side. Right here. This is your oil passage here. Make sure your cylinders are all clean. Surfaces are clean because any debris in there could mess up your seal on your gasket. So just make sure that's all nice and clean. Here's our gaskets. Like I said, these are from Ferrparts. Matter of fact, these are the ones same as the original. Same manufacturer. Part number is OKPFE 916277. Says right here, left, right, Ferrari 355. And there is a direction on these. So this should say like one surface is up. So it doesn't matter which direction these go. So when you're putting this together, make sure you have this gasket where it says up in the up direction. But we're going to go ahead and take this stuff out of the package and then install them on the head. And then we'll show you what's going on. All right, so we've got our head gaskets on there. These are put on dry, okay? So not like other gaskets you use sealant. These you're going to put dry. And like I said, in Italian, Alto is up in Italian, I believe. Yes. I'm a terrible Italian, so you have to ask Mark over here. He's,
yo, how you doing?
Yeah. So anyway, make sure they are in the up position when they say up like this. And then make sure your surfaces are clean. And we're going to go ahead and put this Moly Coat lube on the threads here, the shanks here. for the heads. It calls out in the manual to put moly coat on the shanks there when you're installing these heads. So we're going to go ahead and do that at this time. It's a tube right over here, moly coat. So anyway, we're going to do that and then get the heads ready to install. And then we'll take you through the torque sequence per the manual. Okay, and like I said, you're going to want to use all new nuts. These are all new. The washers, doesn't matter. As long as they're in good condition, you can reuse the washers. So they're not crushed or anything. They're just a standard washer. All right, we're going to go ahead and get ready. So we've got our moly coat lube on here already. Like I said, the gaskets are installed. Moly coat's on the threads here. So it's ready to, and we kind of like, make sure you just wipe a little bit of that off on the gasket there. I don't know if it makes a difference, but like I said, normally you put these on dry. So other than that, we're going to go ahead and slide these heads on. And let's see, this is over here on this side, that's bank 1. This is bank 2. All right. So on these here, this is going to be bank 2. This is going to be bank 1. These little standoffs here that hold the wire harnesses on, they go on the back side. So that's another way to tell that this is the back of the head here towards the bumper. All right. So we're going to go ahead, slide these back on there. Don't tip these over, because if you tip these over, these will slide out. The buckets will come out. So don't want to do that yet. So we're going to go ahead and slide these on right now. All right, so we've set the heads on there right now. They sit on real nice. They slid right on, no effort at all. If you got anything, make sure when you're putting them on, make sure they're even, because you may get a bind on the studs. But these slid on real nice. Just make sure your gap right now, I mean, it is equal pretty much all the way around. Make sure it's all seated pretty good. You may have to pull up on the head a little bit to get clearances on your nut installation here, so we might have to pull up on it a little bit. We'll see. But you can see, like, your washers will sit in these little valleys here. Mark's installing most of those right now.
Of course, they're not going in nice.
So,
but I'll get them. I have to get those out. Get a magnet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see the washer sitting in there. He hasn't installed that one yet. So he's going to get a magnet to kind of help. So we're going to go ahead and install that. I'm sure you guys don't want to see that. We'll get those installed, and then we'll show the nuts and everything once we get to that point. All right, so we've got the nuts installed here on the top and the washers, as you can see. Just barely start those. Those you can install with the head like seated, I would say. But the bottom ones, you need to kind of lift up on the head a little bit. So I would suggest you getting these nuts on the top all the way started, at least, and then pulling up on the head a little bit to get the nuts on the bottom side, because there's not enough clearance on the bottom side if you don't do that. The bottom side's kind of tight in this area right here.
Maybe we should have done the bottom side first.
So we're going to go ahead and lift up on the head a little bit and install these, and then we should be good. All right, so we've got all the nuts installed now on both heads. They're all the way down. Now we're going to do the torque sequence on these here. Like I explained earlier, what the manual states is, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to use moly coat grease on the stud threads, which we did. Tighten all the nuts in the order shown in figure 6 to a torque of 60 Newton meters, which I'll have to figure out what the equivalent is in foot-pounds. Okay, so here's the torque sequence. So you're going to start in the center and then work your way outboard, basically, on this. And then once you have all those torqued to 60 Newton meters, you're going to do an additional 90 degrees with your torque wrench, which we're going to have to mark the nuts with a marker or something and see once the mark moves 90 degrees. So they're talking about a 90 degree turn also, or like wrench position on your adapter. So this is the adapter that they use, and you can see the 90 degree here. So this is what you want to use when you're using the tool to torque these up. So you don't have to use any formulas or anything. Now you can use a straight extension on this, and you don't have to use a 90 degree. But since this tool has these bends in it, or an L or dog leg or whatever you have to use the 90 degree rule here. Or otherwise you're going to have to use a formula. You'll have to measure the length of your arm here, and there's a formula for that. But this eliminates using the formula when you're using the 90 degree rule here. Okay, and you can use an extension on that, which is not a straight extension. If you have it up here, it's not going to change the torque. If it does, it's very minimal. Okay, so anyway, we're getting to that point, and we'll show you the setup once we get there. Guys, I converted it for you. 60 newton meters equals 44 foot-pounds. So that's what you're looking for. 44 foot-pounds equals 60 newton meters. This is the initial torque on all the bolts in this sequence. So once you get to there, then you're going to torque it an additional 90 degrees. All right? In the same sequence. All right, so we've got our torque wrench on here. It's set 44 foot-pounds. And as you can see, we're at a 90 degree, okay? So you want to keep this tool 90 degree as much as possible when you're torquing this. And then it's going to take several sweeps to get this, but you want to maintain that the whole time. So here, give it a little bit of a turn there, Mark. All right, so he's going to pull it out back in.
Yep, I have to pull it out.
And then he might have to reset it because it's kind of tight in there. These tolerances on these nuts are crazy. So we might have to pull the wrench off and then reseat this.
And once we figure it out, we'll be able to tighten maybe my hand a little better. Is it on?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
And like I said, 90 degrees. You want to maintain it 90 degrees every time. And then you want to torque that one, then they're going to go to the next one on top, the opposite.
Okay.
So we may want to go ahead and, instead of tighten them all, we might want to get these other ones more tight. I mean, we have them snugged up, but I don't want to go to an initial torque. Well, let's go ahead and go use the torque sequence and snug these up before we do the final. It's not the final torque, but it's your 90 or 60 or 44 foot-pounds.
Yep.
Okay, or 60 newton meters.
That's right.
All right, so we've got all our bolts, there's nuts and that torque to 44 foot-pounds or 60 newton meters. All right. So now what we have to do is we have to turn an additional 90 degrees for the final torque. So they actually use a tool for that. What we're going to do is we're going to mark the nut here on each one of these with a marker and then turn it at 90 degrees where it should end up at like over here. So it should be, other than that, pretty easy. We don't have to use a torque wrench for this. We just got to turn an additional 90 degrees on all of them. So we're going to mark them all and then turn them at 90 degrees. So, all right, so we've got our nuts on the final torque. They're complete. So what we did was made a mark here, turned it 90 degrees to the right, which is like facing here. We did that in the same sequence as before on both heads. And that completes the torque process for both heads. So now we're going to finish for tonight. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to fit the cams back in, pour some oil in here, then put the cams in, and then put our seals and everything back on and start building this back up. But yeah, we've got the heads torqued now, and we're going to continue on next time. But anyway, hey, thanks for following, and please subscribe. You got anything to say, Mark?
Hey, no.
All right.
Good somewhere.
Yes. So hopefully we'll meet up again in the next day or so and finish this up. Well, not finish it up, but get closer to being finished. So, all right. Catch you later.